You see, in many magic shows, there are top hats, rabbits, birds, and pretty email assistants. Unfortunately, none of these in this show. But let's see what we can do with a bit of light, shadow, and magic.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the co-star of Ultimate Magic, and with good Ning.
Hey, how's everyone doing tonight?
The Shadow Box is a classic in magic. It is described in Tarbell and was created by David Bamberg. And I'm including it in Behind Illusions because classics do have a place in a modern illusion show. I know Ning and myself are always pushing the whole urban illusions, contemporary illusions angle, and we do that obviously for marketing and promotional purposes, but classics obviously have their place, and in this case the Shadow Box is an illusion we're performing as we purchased it. So we didn't really do any major changes in terms of design. We just performed it as we got it. This particular Shadow Box was built by Jim Summers. It's a very basic level illusion, but because it is performed in fairly dark conditions, you can't really see the quality of the build or see fine details. So it's highly functional and works, and this particular version packs completely flat. It also has a roller blind reveal instead of the bursting through paper. The Shadow Box is a really pure illusion because what the audience sees is what they get. Basically, it's an empty box, actually a lantern as was originally designed. You show it completely empty with a light bulb, a back, front, underneath, and a person appears. So it is a very strong piece of magic. Now, it is a classic in magic, but I think it's okay to do a good classic within the context of a modern illusion show if it is one out of many different modern illusion shows. Now, just to show you how strong it is, we did our permanent illusion show and we used this illusion to make Ning appear at the start of the show. And we were in rehearsals for 1 month with the technical crew. Now, after 1 month, multiple rehearsals, the sound engineer came up to us and asked, he had seen all the different illusions. He said he had an idea how it was done, but he had no idea how Shadow Box was done. And if you think about it, it is the most low-tech method and it's such a simple secret, but it was really deceptive because it was that simple and that pure. While the shadow box is a great illusion, I do not recommend it as a first illusion. In fact, I don't really recommend any illusion to be a first illusion if it has a load space, because you have to be loaded up and you may not have the venue to perform that, and it generally has then to be an opener. If you're doing a first illusion, you want a box illusion or an illusion where something can happen with the illusion already on stage. And with the shadow box specifically, the load requires good lighting as well, because if you can't control the lighting perfectly, it will betray the secret of the illusion. So it's a great illusion, not a good first illusion. So this is the replay of our shadow box performance. It's actually the second illusion of our Ultimate Magic permanent show. After I appeared from the smoke chamber, we would use the shadow box to make Ning appear in the show. Now, so for our presentations, we have kind of a opening patter, which leads to the dramatic reveal of the shadow box. Lighting is very important in this particular illusion, functional as well, as it really creates a nice mood, especially if you've got smoke. So when the smoke blends with the bright bulb light, it really looks good. Now the bulb we use is a 100-watt bulb. I always recommend using at least that, or maybe a 70-watt. You really want it bright. Especially for any stage, the brighter the better. Just be careful it gets really hot. There you can see how the light looks great with the smoke. Now with all methods of the shadow box, basically the person is hiding on a ledge or on a shelf behind the box. In this particular model, it is a shelf which can extend and retract into the base. Most professional models will be like that. So of course you pass the light inside, you pass it behind the box but in front of the person. And I also think it's important to pass the bulb under the prop. While as magicians we don't think that's important, lay people would think in this dark the person somehow crept up from a trapdoor. That was a signal for the stagehands to come out to turn the prop around. Always have some kind of visual cue which is very apparent, especially for stagehands who may be new or who don't really work with you all the time, so you want very definitive cues. Now to rotate the prop you need stagehands. Some props have a lazy Susan which allows you to just move the box without the base moving, or you can just have the base moving in front or the prop moving in front by your assistant, just push it forward. Here's the typical shadow play which we employ as well. Adds a bit of time to the illusion and creates a bit of mystery. In our show's case, I guess the audience is almost expectant that Ning should make her appearance soon. Now the shadow box is a great affordable illusion to buy or to build, and if you put it together yourself, you might not even need legs for this. It's not ideal, but if you're just doing it for a one-off show, you could just have a box with sides and the top and just rest it on the floor, and they have the appearance of Ning. Let me show you an example of what I mean in terms of using it without legs. We actually filmed a version for a TV show. This is for Sony Style Lifestyle magazine show. It was on AXN Asia, and we actually used it for an appearance, but we kind of integrated it with the setting. So here we have the clip of the host of the show who's about to meet us in a predetermined location, which was a basement car park of a shopping mall. So we set this up to really integrate with the car park, kind of a grungy feel. And we notice we took off the legs of the prop later on and we added duct tape, and I'll talk you through it as we actually get to the prop. So here I am meeting with the host. Ning is not here, so we have a banter about she's about to teleport over, and we've actually set up the shadow box in kind of a construction area. Now when we did the site inspection, we actually saw a place where they had construction equipment and renovation equipment around. So all this was basically their equipment, and we brought in our own cones, our own tape, and we brought in the box. As you can see, the box is just sitting on the floor, no legs, and it was just supposed to be organic with the environment. The method we use, of course, is not the traditional method. We used another method for the TV show, but there's no editing involved. Everything is one continuous camera shot. But as you can see, you can actually take a stage illusion, redress it, or in this case dress it down, and make it a relevant looking illusion or prop for whatever application you're using for, whether it's a stage show, whether it's a TV show in our case. So we retain the elements of the shadow box, but try to give it a urban street magic, street illusion feel. So, and the key is really balance. You still want to make it look like an illusion, have a bit of theatrics, but it can't be overproduced or overdone. So here, instead of a light bulb, we have a workman's light, which we got, and it's very natural to be in that location as well. And now the magic is about to begin. Magicians nowadays do like this whole very simplified prop, and I think it works great if your stage setting allows it. I mean, it doesn't look good if you have a nice production stage and you have a bare looking prop. Then it looks kind of cheap as opposed to looking simple. So that is the shadow box. I hope you enjoyed it, and go ahead and use it in any application you like.
Could grow tremendously.
In this clip, you saw Adeline, or Kinetic Girl, perform Jim Steinmeyer's Modern Art, which was described in Modern Art and Other Mysteries. Modern Art has surpassed Robert Harbin's Zigzag Girl as the classic dividing a lady in half. It's a great illusion, easy enough to perform, small footprint, and looks great. But the thing is, so many people are performing it. It is one of the most common illusions in the world, I believe. In fact, I have something I call the YouTube test to see if an illusion is common. If you go onto YouTube and you see that there are more than 10 magicians across the world performing the illusion, it is probably a very common illusion because there are many more illusionists who are performing it but didn't post their videos on YouTube. In fact, I've done a whole entry on my blog, so check out the article and I talk about really overly common performed illusions, how to spot them and what you can do about them. So what is the problem about having an illusion that everyone performs? I mean, obviously it must be good, that's why everyone is doing it. That is true, and I think it depends where you are as a performing illusionist. Now, if you're a new illusionist or beginner, it's great because now you are performing a classic illusion, in this case modern art, which is dividing a lady in half, which is a classic illusion and is a great illusion, and you're just as good as other professional magicians who can do such an illusion. However, if you are a more seasoned illusionist or trying to establish yourself as a world-class illusionist, the problem is you're now performing an illusion that everyone else is doing, so you're not differentiated. So that becomes a problem. And personally, I try to avoid illusions which the top professionals are performing. And you can see the top professionals in the world generally go to the top builders who offer certain illusions. But as a result, they all perform the same illusion, even though the illusions are fantastic and great. But the problem I feel is the top tier professionals are also working for the top clients, in the sense whether they're working for the show bookers or the talent agencies. They will still look across the board at this level and they will realize that, hey, why are all these guys performing the same illusion? So for that very reason, I try to steer clear of any illusion that any top tier professional is performing. And obviously then, we steer clear of illusions that other non-top tier illusionists are performing, because we can't be performing the same things as them. But let's say you do want to perform such illusion and you have the illusion maybe and you still want to include it in the show. What can you do? Well, I guess there are some workarounds, and here's what you can do. So how does one go about, making a standard illusion different? Well, there are several ways without spending a lot of money. One is to change the aesthetic design of the illusion, add to it or take out something just to make it look different. You can come up with a unique presentation, so again it looks different. If it's generally performed as a visual illusion, you can try to perform it as an interactive illusion. If it's an interactive illusion, you may change it up to become a visual illusion. You can add different elements to it, as you did see with Kinetic Girl. She added juggling or yo-yo elements to it, so that made it different. If you can, change the method, that is harder, or you can maybe add a kicker, whether it's a costume change, a production of a second girl. These things can be added to make your illusion unique. Well, let's check out the video once again, and I'll talk you through how we helped Kinetic Girl take a standard illusion, in this case modern art, and made it just a bit different without spending too much money and utilizing an existing prop. Now, Adeline or Kinetic Girl brands herself as a magic juggler. So in her show, she does magic as well as juggling with balls and clubs. So she wanted to add illusion to her show to make it bigger, and we had a modern art lying around. So the idea was to change it up so that it showcases her brand and feels a bit different for the audience who might be familiar with the illusion. So to showcase the juggling aspect of this act, we thought yo-yoing would be good. Because I thought it would be great if she could be divided in half and do the yo-yo at the same time. So that's a very interesting image, and it's an interesting pitch to a client. If you tell them, hey, I'm a magic juggler and I can do the yo-yo, but I'm cut in half. So here she shows just simple yo-yo tricks. It's called Walk the Dog, which I really like because it kind of gets her from one end of the stage to the side of the prop, which is the door. We have a little stand on top of the modern art just for her hat. And in this case, it was also modified so that could be done with just one person. So we just added windows or cutouts with spandex and changed some of the latches positions so that it could be done with just one person. Now notice the design of the prop as well. Those are actually yo-yos with yo-yo strings connecting them together. Again, just a bit of aesthetic design, but it complements her image and again re-strengthens her brand as a magic juggler. So she does the one person separation. Applause cue, she's going to go for a secondary applause cue by opening up the doors to show her legs and her top. And of course, here comes the big difference because she's going to yo-yo at the same time while she's already divided in half. So a small touch, but it does make an existing illusion different, and more importantly, it is something very unique to her and showcases her brand. So as with all performance of modern art, she's going to reverse all the actions and restore herself. So if you're thinking about illusions and how to make them different, do the YouTube test, as I said, and see how everyone else is doing an illusion and try to do it differently. So that's the easiest way. In terms of modern art, I've seen quite a few performers try to do it differently, and they look great. They've done one-man versions, they have added different elements, they've in fact changed the design, some have changed the method, some have added things, and it really adds illusion, and all in a bit to make the illusion different, which is ultimately what we want. I hope that was a good example in seeing how you can make an illusion different from others and make it unique to yourself and believable. In Adeline's case, because she's a juggler, yo-yo fit the juggling image, so yo-yoing while sawing in half is something her audience could believe and at the same time made sense for her character, and if anyone else were to do it out of the blue, it just won't be as strong. So good luck with that.
With illusion shows, most of the time, the audiences don't really get the chance to come up here on stage to actually check things up close and personal. But you know what? I hate rules. So let's just make a difference today and see who we have in the audience right now, because I would like to invite someone up to check out something. Alright, let's see here. Hi there, sweetheart, what's your name? Laura. Okay, now Laura looks like a girl who really knows how to fly. Everyone, please put your hands together and invite Laura up on stage. Sweetheart, please, this way. Alright? Alright, now you look like a girl who really knows how to fly. Okay, so we alone have fun together. Two chicks on stage. This way, please. Alright? All you have to do is just stand to my left, look to the front, and smile. Show business! Okay, don't worry, I know the lights are really bright, but they're there, trust me. Everyone please give her a big round of applause! Yeah! Don't worry, they can see you. Okay, now, you are going to have some fun with me, okay, because you have a really important job, right? Because she is going to be the eyes and the hands of the audience down below, because she is going to meet my biggest fan. Yeah. Are you ready? Okay, let's do it. Ta-da! Standing at over 8 feet tall and weighing over 200 kg. Ladies and gentlemen, Laura, this is my biggest fan, okay? Obviously not human. And she's gonna check it out, right, sweetheart? Come right over. I am going to pass you this stick of power. And with this, I'd like you to check that everything is solid and legit, okay? I'd like you to just tap it over the blade over here. Oh, so gentle, okay, like this. Yeah, okay. Try one more time. Well done, okay, it's not rubber. Okay, now blade number 2, right over there. And of course, last but not least, blade number 3. Well done. Now, if it's all solid and legit, give that a thumbs up so everyone knows it's solid. Give them a thumbs up. Don't run away, don't run away, don't run away. Oh no, okay, she's so scared of me. Okay, don't worry, okay, I don't bite. Okay, now, they need to know it's solid, just give them a thumbs up like that if it's solid. Well done. Don't run away yet. I need you to come with me to the back of the van. Let's make a quick walk around it. Okay, now let's just check this panel over here. Solid. Over here. Okay, and to the front. Okay, very good, right? I know what you guys are thinking. No, don't run away yet. When I don't need you anymore, I will tell you, okay? Now, okay, I know what you guys are thinking, okay? They might suspect, okay, there's something fishy with the bottom. You're wearing jeans, just stoop down, take a look. Make sure there are no mirrors, no trapdoors whatsoever. Okay, wow, she's really good. Okay, mind your head, my dear, sweetheart. Okay, thank you very much. She's fantastic. Everyone please give her a big round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, you've been a great help. Fantastic sport. Thank you, sweetheart. Okay, so now there is someone from the audience, a really pretty lady might add, come up here to do an all-round check to ensure that everything is solid and legit. Without further ado, I'd like to present Revolution, 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 Revolution,
So this is my biggest fan. Literally. Revolution is a giant fan illusion, and I think, again, there's something about fan illusions that appeal to illusionists. There are several fan illusions on the market. Jim Steinmeier has his walking through 747 jet engine turbine. There's Wind Shear by Jim Steinmeier and Andre Cole. So Copperfield has the fan illusion, which is a bit different again from everyone else's, but the primary prop is a giant fan. So I wanted a giant fan illusion, so I went about designing something differently. Now, there's been actually a debate of this particular illusion because quite a few magicians do not like this illusion, and for the very reason they say that if you're doing a fan illusion, you have to walk through the fan. Well, to me, that'll be like saying if you're doing a card trick, you have to do a pick a card trick. And I think that's a limiting factor. To me, for the lay audience, the central prop is the subject of the illusion, in this case, the fan. So if I was going to, design a walkthrough fan illusion, again, I'll be reinventing the wheel. I might come up with a different method, but if an educated audience who have seen, passing through fan illusions might anticipate it, and again, it just looks like walking through fan illusion. So I came up with this because this was my mindset. Now, picture this. Is this a pretty good illusion? You have an empty box. You have an audience member come on stage, examine it, tap it, show it's completely empty and solid. Audience member goes down stage, close up the box, open it, and a person appears. Now that is a pretty strong illusion, right? Now the thing is, why must it be a box? Why can't we change the box to a fan, or a brick wall, or to anything else? And that's exactly what Revolution is. It's a production of a person from a fan. Now, I think the effect that lay audiences get is, the person came out from the fan, and that's how they described it, because we've asked people in surveys after the show, so which was your favorite illusion, or what do you think of this illusion, how would you describe this illusion, one sentence? And Revolution was always described as JC came out from this big giant fan. Now, I think magicians may be unhappy because they feel it's a cheat, it's more of an appearance, not a penetration, yet audiences perceive it as a penetration. Well, I have no idea, but I think that is where the limiting factor is. I actually wear different hats when I design different illusions, and I talk about this in a blog entry I made called The Revolution Debate. It's also on the website shown on the screen. And I talk about the different hats that I wear when I come up with illusions. Just some of the hats, for example. In terms of Revolution, when I designed it, I wore the hat of a show producer, and I wanted to have an illusion which had production value. I mean, we had many medium-sized illusions, we had some large-scale illusions, but I wanted an illusion that filled the stage, felt big, and just to add to that whole production value. And that's why Revolution fit the bill. It was a good illusion, but more importantly, it was a big illusion and added scale. Now, if I was the illusion designer, and I'll be thinking, well, I want to design an illusion which is different, and I go away thinking, well, why not do a fan illusion but don't do it as a typical fan illusion? So I designed an appearance from a fan. Now, if I'm a show promoter or marketer of the show, I would love Revolution from the point of view it's something I can market. I can say, hey, this is an illusion for a giant fan. There's no other show in this part of the country, or in this country, this part of the world, which has an illusion with a giant fan. That's a selling point. So you choose and design illusions for different purposes, and not just necessary because of basic magic effect, although that must be good, or not what magicians say. So more onto Revolution. I'm going to show you a couple photographs right now. Now, Revolution is a pretty big prop, as you can see. It's not an easy build, it is a pretty complex build, so I won't advise it for first-time builders. Obviously, there's electronics, a motor involved. I use a belt-driven motor. So if you really want to build this illusion, you need to learn a bit about fan belt motors and the various kinds of fans on the market. But Revolution's plans are detailed in my books Urban Illusions. I go through the entire illusion of how to build it, and what sort of fan and motor to use, and what sort of blades we use, and basically everything that covers to build this particular illusion. Now the base actually for my particular prop is not my own base. This is part of Rich Hill's Phantom Cage illusion. It is a beautiful base and an example of me recycling an illusion once again. And believe it or not, this base was also used in one of my mega illusions, the one where I teleported 50 stories in 5 seconds. This was the base used at the top of the building. Let's check out the performance on the replay of the video right now. Now this illusion sees Ning actually taking the lead for this particular illusion, and it's a great way to showcase herself as an equal and as an individual for the show. So she interacts with the audience, she goes down to the audience and actually gets someone up to examine the fan. So if you are doing any kind of show which requires two people and two equal stars in the show, the talking role is very important. It's very tough to have an equal build show where only one performer talks, unless you're Penn and Teller. But in a general sense, especially in Ning's case, because she's a female, it's very easy for an audience to dismiss her, especially at the start of her career, as just a pretty face or as an illusionist assistant. So we designed the show and wrote the routines and choreographed it such that she had a lot of lead parts, a lot of dominant parts, whether it's handling an audience, introducing an illusion, whether she's the dominant one cutting me in half, or she's the one using spikes, swords and fire. So all this just, adds to her as an equal star. So in a sense, we had to overcompensate to ensure that the audience took her seriously. Of course, now she's pretty much established and we don't have to overcompensate, but we still ensure the show is very equal. So here she is, she introduces Revolution. I'm already inside the base, enjoying myself. Rich Hill's base is huge for me, so it's practically a condo. And the great thing about this particular illusion, the audience participation adds time, obviously, to illusion and to the show. And there can be nice situational comedy moments that happen with the audience member. And I think in this case, we got a really lively lady to help out, so it really made the presentation entertaining. So size does matter. We used to use a smaller pipe to knock on the blades, and then we changed to this huge, it's actually aluminum, but looks much bigger, much heftier, and sounded much better as well. I'm going to talk about invisible assistants in this particular illusion, because if you notice, and I'm going to point it out to you now, one of the onstage crew is actually quite crucial to making this performance smooth. But as with all my stage crews or the assistants, I'm talking about the people who are not the dancers, so we're talking about just the crew. We have a saying, we want them to be like ninjas. They should appear invisible. You do not perceive them on stage when they do their stuff. And you see here the lady being really spotting, almost climbing under the base to examine it. So here we have the essence of the illusion. In terms of the plot, we have someone from the audience check out the entire illusion, check the fan is solid, look all around, look underneath, go one round. So there should be beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is basically just a fan. And this leads into the visual performance of the illusion to music. Lighting design, very dramatic, because this is a very dramatic illusion, as with this piece of music. Because it's such a big prop, it requires an onstage crew who again would and should appear invisible. So notice how Ning always takes dominant position and gets all the focus, while the crew is actually now behind connecting the wires for the fan. And crew is now standing aside, invisible as well until needed. So the great thing about a fan illusion, with all fan illusions in general, I mean, it is a huge fan, and the motor, the movement of the fan, and with a smoke machine and the lights, it really gives a very nice, dramatic, big look, production value, as I mentioned early on. Here we have a unique covering system that I use to block angles and act as cover. The side panels actually swing open, and that's really to protect bad angles. And the panel they've just attached actually has an additional cloth, as you can see, rolled up. So again, a non-traditional way of a reveal. You saw a big movement. That was probably me coming out. Notice the sound of the clanking of the metal, as though the hands are just coming through the fan, and the appearance right there. So very dramatic. It always gets a great response, and we have our very own illusion with a giant fan. So that is Revolution. If you don't agree that it's an illusion because there's no walking through, that is fine. In my book Urban Illusions, where Revolution is described, I also have one more illusion called Wind Passage, and that is a traditional walking through fan illusion, but with a very unique method. You can check that out as well.
For hundreds of years, magicians have been trying to cut women in half, horizontally, vertically, diagonally, but well, we are going to raise it another notch higher.
Well, we call this illusion 360 sawing.
Now, 360 sawing, this is one of my personal favorite illusions from the standpoint of redesigning and rebuilding illusion to make it really different, and as a result, getting to be known for this particular illusion designed. Now, 360 sawing is basically my name for an illusion that was created and built by magic makers out of Canada, Jerry Frenette. He built the illusion, it's called Woman's Revolution, and I bought it and I redesigned and rebuilt it to what we call 360 sewing now. And if you check out, this is how Women's Revolution looks like, and this is how 360 sewing looks like. As you can see, it's quite a world of a difference. Now, not many people perform Women's Revolution, and I believe it's a combination of the high price tag as well as maybe the aesthetic look of the prop. But when I first saw it, I saw that the effect had potential, but I personally did not like the look of the prop as well. But I had some ideas for it, so I got the prop and started with the redesign. Now, with the redesign, I also had to change quite a few of the technical parts of the prop because they weren't really to my liking and they didn't work as well as I liked. And over time, because we move a lot of the prop, we transport the prop, we ship the prop, the particular prop that we bought couldn't really withstand that rugged touring, so to speak. So in essence, we rebuilt the entire prop. The only thing left from the original prop is this the oval track that you see. So it's really a whole rebuild and redesign. I'm not sure how many people will actually spend amount of money to build a prop or buy a prop and then completely rebuild it all over again. But if you want to do your version of someone's original illusion, that really is the way. I mean, you could probably talk to them and ask them if you could build a design. Probably they won't like that. Or you can get them to build it and you do it and you recut it. And I've done that with a lot of my illusions. But 360 in particular was quite a major transformation. I think a lot of people have taken notice of the prop. In fact, I know people who thought that I created 360 Sewing and Women's Revolution was a copy, so to speak, but that's not the case. The original method still belongs to magic makers, but we just rebuilt and redesigned everything for our needs now. So once again, it is possible to innovate an existing illusion to make it unique, different, and practically your own, even though you did not originate it. So I'm not talking about pirating or ripping off ideas, I'm talking about doing the right thing, but understanding that originality and innovation can be quite wide. You don't always have to completely invent something. I mean, hardly anything is completely original, that can be argued. But what you can do is add your own spin on it and just truly make it your own and make it unique. And I think 360 is an example of that. We're going to look through the performance, I'm going to talk you through it, and I'm also going to point out some design elements I made which I think transformed the illusion.
For hundreds of years,
we use 360 sewing a lot as our closing illusion in the show. And it's nice, big, it's impressive, it's really modern, and we think it's very characteristic of our whole urban illusions image that we did. So I'm going to talk about the prop design here. Well, first up is this cloth which starts it off. It's really a grey cloth with paint splatter, but adds that whole urban gritty look. Now if you look at the prop itself, one of the things I added is this, what I call the wing design on the vertical supports of the illusion. And again, notice the circle, and I talked about this in Human Light Tunnel, how the circle design actually offsets the whole blockish, squarish look of the illusion. Now, just like many illusions, like Robert Harbin's Zigzag Lady, the motif of the girl or the image of a girl or silhouette at the front helps tell the audience the position of the girl and kind of adds to the visual deception of the illusion. So in this case, we added in, with a silhouette of a sexy lady. Now we changed the steps as well. It's been taken away now, but the steps were changed to, well, it's actually the same steps we use for crystal metamorphosis as well, and that's a set of aluminum tubing steps. Served us very well. One thing we changed was the covering on top. If you look at videos of the original Women's Revolutions, it was a blind system. We did away with that with a simple cloth system. Now, cueing is very important in this illusion. This is actually a very dangerous illusion. In fact, any illusion with moving parts is dangerous. Ning has hurt her head. She's been to the hospital for being cut her fingers. Yeah, it's a tough illusion to work with because it moves. That's why we have rebuilt everything now to be 100% safe. Another design element, notice the chains again. I seem to like chains and stuff like that, but it's all part of my whole industrial look. Again, it breaks up the monotony of the straight edges and straight lines. Here comes the favorite part for the audience and what makes 360, and for a great applause cue is the image of Ning's top body roller coasting below her body. Not sure if you noticed, but again we have one of our ninja crew in play again. Critical to the illusion for stability and to lift up the box, but should be invisible to the audience. My presentation is very different from the presentational handling of the original 360 as well. We changed different things around, but again, it works for us. It works with the music we use, which is a rock track for this. Nice finale. Ninja assistant brings up the steps, and we come out for the applause cue. So high impact illusion with a cutting edge design to create, as perceived by the audience, a very modern, never before seen illusion. So as an illusionist, the question you might have on your mind is, do I buy an illusion or do I try design it and build it? Well, it's really up to you. There's so many factors involved: budget, logistics, manpower, the timeline. I think also depends on our own capabilities. Like, I think the only two illusionists I can think of who do 100% original material are Franz Harari and Peter Marvey. Brilliant minds to create new effects and do a whole show of their own effects. I can't do that. I have a few good ideas, but I know I can take other people's ideas and innovate on them and still create a fresh new show. So if you can design your own illusions, a couple, just to have something different that no one else is doing in the world, because that's what your benchmark should be. But remember, marketed illusions by professional builders are a great investment, because these are professional builders who know what they're doing, who have probably built the illusion before, have their little touches to illusion to make it more deceptive, and you're guaranteed of a great prop. So I'd say in most cases, well, do a combination of both and you should have an awesome show. Now that we've been behind the illusions of 10 illusions, I thought I'll talk a bit about casing to end this DVD. Now, there are different ways to case your illusions, and casing your illusions is really protecting your investment. The most common type of cases are known as ATA cases. They can be made of wood panels or plastic, or they call it ABS plastic or honeycomb, astroboard, different trade names. You can have fiber cases, you can have crates, and you can have canvas bags. So there are a variety of ways to protect your illusion, and it depends how you're traveling. If you're shipping, are you going by land? Are you putting it in your own box, your own car? Is your crew helping you move it, or are you having contractors move it? So all these are factors you have to consider when casing your illusion. So what case will best suit you? I think it depends on budget, it depends on how you're going to move your props, and how you set up your show. Now, if you're doing an illusion show where there's one main illusion and you travel a lot by car or by plane and you just want to check everything excess baggage, and this is what I did for years early in my career, you want illusions that can pack down and pack light. So I use primarily fiber cases. So it's really lightweight and protected illusions, and because it wasn't handled by cargo shippers, I wasn't too worried about severe damage from forklift punctures. But of course, this means the illusions are packed flat. When you get on site, you actually have to set up the entire illusion. But if you do a bigger illusion show with 3, 4, 5 or 10 illusions, it's probably quite difficult to carry all these on the plane or in your car, in the lorry. So you're going to be relying on shipping companies and freight forwarders. So you really need hardy cases, in this case ATA cases, to really protect the illusion. You also want to think about packing efficiently. Now, Chris Murphy from Australia, he's a builder, but he had a great booklet or lecture notes on illusions, and he talked about casing illusions, how it's important to case efficiently as opposed to just packing flat. Because the thing is, if you have 3 or 4 illusions and everything packs down, it could take you 2 hours just to set up for a half an hour show, and another 2 hours to pack down. Not really good use of your time, and eventually all the energy spent setting it up, packing it down, could be better spent elsewhere. Furthermore, it's very possible that even after you break down entire prop, it doesn't take much more space than it would if it was actually partially set up. So for example, an example of packing efficiently, if you have a crystal appearance or crystal casket, instead of trying to pack down the top, pack down the base, why not have one case but just remove the legs, push the entire prop in. So when you actually need to set it up, all you have to do is pull it out and set up the legs. In my case now, most of my illusions just roll in cases of their own with minor setups, simply because we don't want to spend time and energy setting up a complete illusion show. Having said that, I also have many illusions which also can pack flat, and I actually have cases in a packed flat version. So again, it depends on the project I'm working on. If I need to, whether it's due to the way I'm shipping, due to budget, I can pack down certain illusions to pack flat. But in most cases now, everything, rolls into a case, and I know a lot of touring shows do that. But when I first started, and for new illusionists, who want lugging around a lot of illusions, you probably want, something that can be packed down flat into a case, and I would go with a lighter case like a fiber case in that way. One thing to note about packing down illusions, it's got to do with the illusion design, and that's where you pay a good builder or illusion designer, because they'll think about how to pack an illusion down so that the prop is still has its integrity, it's still strong, and at the same time won't take a long time to set up. I mean, if you have an illusion which needs 100 bolts to set up each time, that probably is not too practical. At the same time, if you only use 2 nuts and bolts and it will fall apart, that's no good either. So a certain amount of design knowledge and thought has to be put together in designing an illusion that can pack down, and that you may not get with homemade illusions, for example. My final word of advice is to learn all you can of different case methods and cases. Search the internet. There's a ton of information on companies who specialize in casing all kinds of props, not just illusion props. Learn about the different materials. Technology is changing and improving all the time, from the materials as well as the component parts. So learn all you can. Talk to someone in your area, like a sound company who does casing. They will be your best bet to help as well.
Grand Illusions in 5 minutes!
Magic number that is predicted is 5853.
The first thing we've got to do
is to show you what we have set up on stage. All right. This is a specially designed and constructed structure designed to hold the 5 participants as they are inside. We've come to call this structure the cage. The cage is made of aluminum, stainless steel, fiberglass, wood, and is held together by 64 individual stainless steel bolts and nuts.
That's right. Now, we also have 5 concrete blocks down over here. Now, this completely elevates the cage from the stage. And you can see what's below, above, and around the cage at all times.
We also have a 3-ton forklift over here. This forklift is of course attached to the cage and will bring the cage up 24 feet in the air. Now you might be wondering why 24 feet? Well, it's really high up, so you can see nothing fishy can go on. But at the same time, it's not so high up that you can't see what is going on.
In short, what you see is what you get. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please put your hands together to welcome the participants of the aerial exit.
In a few moments, we're going to invite the participants in the cage. But first, I should point out that singing here is a bit different. She's actually a member of the media. She's a DJ with 100.3 FM. Okay, singing,
Yeah.
you actually have an important role
Yes.
because you have the microphone.
Yeah.
In a while, all of you will be inside the cage. But at a particular point, I'll be asking you to count down from 5 to 1.
Okay,
Okay?
can.
So what we'd like to do, just a test run so everyone can hear and so we can hear it as well. So anytime you like, start counting down from 5 to 1. Do it slowly but loudly so everyone can hear.
Okay.
Go ahead.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Very good.
Sounds very good.
Hey,
A
yeah.
bit faster maybe later on, but
Okay.
that's great. Okay. So I think we're all good to go. Now we'd like all of you to enter the cage. All right, 2 guys in front. What I'd like to do is turn around and face the people behind. Yep,
Okay.
face, very good.
That's good. Now, the people at the 4 corners allow you to reach out and touch singing on her shoulders.
Tell you, I think there's a bit of imbalance over here. Yu Heng, can you step over here, exchange places with Alan? Go ahead and do that. That looks good. Okay. Are you happy, Ning, with that?
Yep,
You want to
looks
switch
good.
anyone else around?
No, I think we're fine.
Okay, 5 people inside. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, have a very good look at these 5 participants because this may be the very last time you ever see them again.
Now, to help them remain calm, we are going to raise a curtain around them while they're elevated 24 feet up in the air. This makes sure that they can't see outside and get nervous.
But just to make sure we know they're still inside, we have these flags, and we're going to ask the participants to extend their hands out through the curtain so we can still see them. Could both of you extend your hand out through the holes in the curtain? All right, Yu Heng? Hello? Oh, very good. Okay, good. Hang on to the flag over here. Feng Lian, hold on to the flag over here. Excellent job.
Okay, so now the guys on this side of the cage. Alan, can you please stick your hand out? I have a flag for you and Daniel. Okay, over here, grip it tightly. Thank you very much. Don't drop it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for liftoff. Five feet in the air.
10 feet up in the air.
16 feet in the air.
24 feet.
Well, it looks like everything is set. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you a mega illusion in the air. 5 participants in the cage, 24 feet above ground, nothing below. Audiences can see around, behind, at all times. Participants,
Stand by.
our friends holding the flag. Can you wave the flag? Wave the flag so everyone can still see you're inside. Good job. Singing, I'd like you to start counting down from 5 to 1, okay? Start right now.
5, 4,
Drop your flags.
2,
Put your hands in.
Now! There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the aerial exit.
5 people have vanished in the air right before your very eyes.
In December 2010, Ning and myself staged our 8th mega illusion, the aerial exit, where we made 5 people vanish 24 feet in the air while surrounded by 1,000 people. Now, we've done a couple of mega illusions over the years, and our approach has always been to try to bring back the grandeur of grand illusions. I mean, the past decade has seen the explosion of street magic thanks to Mr. David Blaine, and I guess stage illusions has kind of fallen out of fashion. But always trying to be different and trying to go against the stream of things and doing what opposite of what everyone is doing, we thought there was actually a strong market for good mega illusions if they were redefined for today's audience. Of course, we must acknowledge magicians such as Harry Houdini, who really created this outdoor spectacle with his stunts. And in terms of modern day interpretations of mega illusions, it's of course David Copperfield with all his great mega illusions that he used to close his TV specials back in the day. Franz Ferrari has also come up with a whole bunch of mega illusions for TV as well. But since the popularity of street magic, not many people have gained much mainstream prominence with mega illusions, so we thought there was something there. So we've pushed very hard to try to do mega illusions, and I don't believe anyone in Asia has actually done such mega illusions. But we did kind of define what we felt a modern day mega illusion should be. The first thing is uncontrollable environments. It must be done live in front of a real life audience, not just for TV, and it should be done surrounded. And ideally, if we can, it should be done in an iconic location with an iconic object over great distances or something of a great size. So this is how we defined mega illusions when we staged the illusions, and it's almost test conditions. And I think we must have done something right because the local and regional media has been so supportive, as well as the international magic media. So I actually came up with the aerial exit probably in mid-2009. I worked out the method and got the basic idea for another client, but that didn't go through because of the budgets. So when the National Heritage Board approached us, we ran through a couple of ideas, and due to the location it had to be at an iconic museum in Singapore, the aerial exit, then called the Impossible Vanish, actually was approved. So we then went about designing and building the illusion. Here are a couple of things of this illusions. We staged it during the day. Now, during the pitch, of course, we said we wanted to do it during the day because it would be in broad daylight. It was not under the cover of darkness, which is what normally illusionists do. And that's a great pitch. It's a great differentiating factor as well. But it was also simply due to budget, because if you do an outdoor stunt like this at night, you have to bring in lighting designers, video screens, generators, and you're talking about a lot more money out. So if if we could keep that money for the illusion design and the performing of the illusion, then as you can see, a daytime solution is actually a better approach. Now, we took about 6 weeks to build the illusions. I'm going to show you a couple of photos of the build process right now. Here we have part of the illusion, and this is specifically the base of the prop. We called the entire illusion assembly the cage, and that was just to reference it for the media as well as the mainstream audience, just to understand what this is. We didn't want to call it a box. So I wanted a, for lack of a better term, a cage or some kind of framework apparatus that would sit on a solid base. So here we are building parts of the bases and finishing up. And here it is assembled on concrete blocks in the workshop. We actually have different vendors work on different parts of the illusion. So the metal work is done by someone, the woodwork is done by someone, and we assemble everything ourselves. After the prop was built and kind of tested in the workshop, we brought it back to our studio and we started fine-tuning the rigging as well as the curtain drop. Now, the curtain drop was an important part of the design because it was essential that the curtain would drop exactly when we wanted to. As with all our mega illusions or stunts of this kind, because it's done in such a public space, it's almost impossible to rehearse the illusion. We do, of course, block through and choreograph exactly what we want to do, and we do as much as we can in the studio. So for Aerial Exit, we knew exactly how the blocking would be with the people, where we would stand, and exactly what the sequence would be. We also scripted it, so everything was planned, but obviously we couldn't really rehearse the illusion as we would in the actual performance, simply because it's outdoors and we needed the entire outdoor setup in order to even execute the illusion. So I'm going to show you some footage we took of the setup day. This was one day before the event, and here's some behind the scenes footage, and I'll run you through it. Well, this is a shot over the iconic Singapore River. The venue for the Aerial Exit was the Asian Civilizations Museum. If you're ever in Singapore, you've got to check it out. As you can see, the prop is already more or less set up, and we're actually working concurrently with the contractors who are setting up the staging. And due to time and setup time and rehearsal time, this is often necessary, so we often have to jump through hoops to make sure that contractors and people who need not know secrets do not actually learn anything during our setup process. Our guys are actually raising up the curtain, and the reason is because they're doing some secret work inside, so we do not want, anyone to know what's going on or have any idea what the secret is, even if they may not be even watching the illusion. And being a public place, and with our mega illusions being fairly high profile now, people from the public, might be around, hanging around, and just seeing what we're up to. I should mention that Ning and I have a great team. Some of them are full-time with us, some work with us on a special project basis, but they all understand how we work. They really now have a good knowledge of what it takes to put together an event of this scale, and everyone, has multiple tasks and they do a great job doing it. As you can see, the forklift is already in place for the illusion. And we used the forklift partially because of the method. It aided in the deception of the look of the entire illusion setup, but also because I wanted something different from a normal crane. Now, most illusionists and magicians use cranes to suspend props, like for crate escapes or straitjacket escapes. So I'd never seen anyone really use a forklift. And I also thought the forklift would give a very controlled ascension like a lift, and that might look quite different. So we went with the forklift. And here we are rigging the prop to the prongs of the forklift. We did it both for the front and the back, and it's really important because if you didn't know, forklifts can actually be toggled such that the prongs of the forklift can actually bend forward, move to the side, so it doesn't just move up and down as we learned. Here we are positioning the cage on the concrete blocks. Precision and certain amount of placement is very important to ensure that the prop sits on the blocks. And of course, when we raise the prop, the concrete blocks don't get stuck underneath the prop. And actually did, if you notice the performance, two of the front blocks did get stuck under the front of the block. Well, it's one of those things we didn't really anticipate beforehand. In hindsight, of course, I would have made the blocks slightly smaller, but it did not really affect the illusion. In fact, we had people come up to us and say, well, those blocks were really separate and detached from anything else, so it played no part in the illusion except support the platform. So that was a plus point in that sense. In anticipation of rain, you can see we also began to wrap the base of the prop and the curtain with plastic. We also laid out waterproofing material in preparation for it to rain, and we also moved our general cases under the stage. And as we expected, it did rain, but we did not expect that it would rain so fast and so hard in such a short time. You can see we're scrambling to cover the prop. We're all getting drenched at this point. We're securing the waterproofing material because it's really important the platform doesn't get wet, and more importantly, the curtain must not get wet, because once it's soaked through, we're going to have a very hard time keeping up during performance, and because of the additional weight, the rigging for the curtain drop might not work. As you can see, we are completely drenched, but believe it or not, within 20 minutes the rain stopped, the sun came out, so we went back to work. Because of the waterproofing in place, the prop was perfectly dry. We removed all the waterproofing and reset it in case of another downpour. Then we began drying the prop. And of course we were prepared for that as well, and that's why we have all these rags or high absorbent cloth to soak up the water. As with all our illusions that require rigging or elevation of any kind, I always make sure I'm the first one to go up. After all, if I designed it, I should be the one testing it out and not letting anyone else test out whether it's safe. But it was a fairly smooth ride, it was a great view, and after that the rest of the team took turns to go for rides. And we jokingly said, we should charge people for this if the Mega Illusion doesn't work out. As we were just about done with our setup, the contractors came in with our branding panels and they installed them as we designed. After the illusion was set up, we took a break and we actually went through blockings and rehearsals of the illusion. We didn't do the exact same thing as we did during the performance again, but we did do at least 80 or 90% of what was to be staged the next day, and we did it in the middle of the night so there'll be less people. We did have some onlookers come and try to see what we're doing, and when that happened we just stopped and didn't do anything. They get bored and they walked away and we continued. So the next day we came up, did a check of everything, and we staged the illusion as you saw it. Now the entire process for this Mega Illusion took about 6 months, from pitching it to the client, getting it confirmed, designing the illusion, getting it built, coming up with the promo and the marketing, scripting it, choreographing it, and ultimately, of course, setting up and staging it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this insight into the aerial exit, and maybe it will give you some ideas on staging your own Mega Illusion in the future. We have come to the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been comprehensive and clear. Ning and I will be thrilled if you benefit from any of the information shared. Use it to improve and elevate your own performance, your own illusion design and presentation. If you elevate your craft, you are going to benefit the entire magic community as a whole. Well, till next time, I'm JC Sum, and this has been Behind the Illusions.